Hey guys, so this is the review of ratios, proportions, and similarities. We need to be able to set up and reduce ratios, set up and solve proportions, to decide whether figures are similar, and find missing sides based on similar figures. So the first step we're going to do is set up ratios. So girls soccer game won 10 games and lost 2. The boys soccer team won 12 games and lost 3. So what is the ratio of the girls' wins to their losses? So it's wins to losses. So that would be 10 over 2, which I would then reduce down to 5 over 1. So then in 3 it says, what's the ratio of girls' wins to the total number of games played? Well, wins, we know they won 10. But then they won 10 and lost 2. So that's a total of 12 games that they played. So that reduces down to 5/6. And you would do the same thing with the boys. So what you do at the end is which has the greater winning ratio. What you do is you would actually do the division. So in this case, it would be 5 divided by 6. You would get that decimal. You would compare the two decimals, see which one's better. The next step is like solving a proportion. Remember, whenever you're solving a proportion, you cross multiply. So you would get 15x equals 30, divide by 15, x equals 2. The only trick with these problems are when you have problems like 24 here, where when you cross multiply into that addition. So it would be 4 times x plus 5 equals 16 times x plus 2. Well, now you have to distribute. So that's a 4x plus 20 equals 16x plus 32. I would then subtract 4x from both sides. 20 equals 12x plus 32 minus my 32. I get negative 12 equals 12x. Divide by 12, x equals negative 1. So that's how I would solve that proportion. But that only happens when I have a minus there. A minus or a plus. All right. The next step is actually setting up ratios and proportions. So in this case, an N gauge model train, a tank car is 3.75 inches long. The actual feet is 50 feet. What's the ratio? Ratio is a fancy name for fraction of the length of the actual car to the model car. So in this case, it would be 3.75 inches to every 50 feet. Well, I like to reduce it down. So your calculator doesn't really like this. So I would move the decimal place over twice. So I have good solid numbers. 375 over 5,000. So what I do would be I would take my calculator and go 375 ABC, the 5,000, and I would get that's 3 to 40. Okay, so every 3 inches it goes 40 feet. Now it says, what's the ratio of the length of the actual to the length of the model? Well, the model, that would mean that the actual would have to be on top, the model would have to be down on the bottom. So it would be 40 feet for every 3 inches. Here again, I set up the ratio. Okay, architect wants to represent the length of room with a 5-inch segment. The room is actually 18 feet long. So what's the ratio? 5 inches for every 18 feet. Well, find the scale width if a room is 12 feet wide. Well, that just takes the 5 over 18, okay? And now it's x over 12, because that's the actual feet. So now I cross multiply. I get 18x equals 60. I divide by 18. X is going to be a grand total of 3.3 bar inches. So 3 1/3 inches. Okay. The next step is using ratios to find angles. Remember, angles in a triangle add up to 180. So when it says 3 to 4 to 5, means that one angle is 3x, one angle is 4x, and one angle is 5x. So all I would do, 3x plus 4x plus 5x equals 180. So 12x equals 180. So x equals 15. Now it says find the measures of the angles. X is not the measure of the angle. I have to take that and I have to plug it back in. So 3 times 15 is 45. This one's going to be 60. This one's going to be 75. Okay? And that's how I would solve for the angles. In these, again, setting up a proportion. So the recommended application for a particular type of lawn furniture is 50-pound bag for 575 square feet. How many bags, that's the question, okay, would be required for 2,850 square feet of lawn? So now, I'm going to say, okay, well, this is a 50-pound bag. One 50-pound bag. It's not how many pounds will it take, it's how many bags. So really, one bag is bags over square feet, which means that it's going to be 1 over 575 equals x over 2,850. Because I asked how many bags, not how many pounds. Okay? So now I cross multiply. I get 575. X equals 2,850. I divide by 575. Okay? And I get a grand total of 4.956. So how many bags will I need? 5 bags. Okay, and I would just set up the same stuff here. And remember just to make the proportion and write out what the fraction is going to be, bags over square feet. Okay. For these, now you're given, okay, this is similarity. Okay, list out all the congruent angles and write a statement of proportionality. So congruent angles, again, we just match stuff up. Angle J is congruent to angle R. Angle K is congruent to angle S. Angle L is congruent to angle T. The proportionality piece that's where the sides come in. So JK is over RS should be the same as KL over ST, which is the same as JL over RT. So I write out the proportions of the sides. That is the statement of proportionality. We use that to decide if polygons are similar or not. So in this case, we know all the angles are congruent, so we can skip that. What we do is now we set up ratios, okay? So MN and XA are going to match up. So 6 over 9 should be the same as 10 over 15, which should be the same as 8 over 12. Now, when I reduce all those down, 6 over 9 is 2/3. this one's 2/3, and this one's 2/3. That means these triangles are similar. So triangle AXR is similar to triangle NMT because this is my scale factor. All of those sides reduce down to the same thing, that scale factor. Now I look over here. Okay, these are two rectangles. All the angles are going to be congruent, but now I'm going to match up the sides. Luckily enough, I can just do 10/8 and 6/4. And then it's just going to repeat. Well, 10/8 is 5/4. 6/4 is 3/2. Those are not equal, so these are not similar. So it's not enough to just notice the angles. You also have to notice that the ratios of the sides. And if they don't reduce down to the same thing, they're not similar. And then the next thing is finding the scale factor and then finding the values of x and y. So to find the scale factor from ABC to GHIJ, you have to find sides that match up that I know. Well, AB is going to match up with GH. Well, that's 8/y. I can't do that one. BC and HI, I don't know. DC is x/8. That's not going to help me. Well, 11/5.5. 11/5.5. I would reduce that down. That's really 2/1. That's the scale factor of ABC to GHIJ. Well, what's the scale factor of GHIJ to ABC? I would flip that around. 1/2. It means that this small trapezoid is half the size of that big one. This big one is double the size of this one. What I can do is I can actually use that to find x and y. So in this case, I can use the 2/1. 2/1, the scale factor, equals x/8. Well, when I cross multiply, x becomes 16. Okay, that's 16. I can then repeat the process with the y, and I can do, okay, well, y is going to match up with AB. Okay, so 2/1 equals 8/x. I cross y. Y ends up being 4. So x is 16. Y is 4. Okay. So now I got 4 here. Well, if this is 5.5, this is going to be 5.5. How do I find the perimeter for question 13? I add all the sides. So in this case, ABCD is going to be, the perimeter of ABCD is just going to be 8 plus 11, that's 19, plus another 11 is 30, plus 16 is 46. Well, here I add up those, the perimeter of GHIJ, those are going to add up to 11.5, plus another 12 is 23. Surprisingly, the ratio of the perimeters is 46/23, which is 2/1, which is also my scale factor. So the ratios of the perimeters are the same as the scale factor. The next step for this is actually using similar figures to set up proportions and solve things. Okay? So in 13, these just help you set this up. Okay? So EF, I don't know that, so that's going to be my X. DF, I do know that. That's 14. FG is 6. FH is 16. because now that's the whole length. I cross multiply and I would solve there. Here, I'm solving for x. So I know 10 and 15 are going to match up. So 10 over 15 equals, well, x over this whole length, which is 39. I would just do 24 plus 15. Cross multiply, 15x equals 390. Divide by 15. My x becomes 26. So that's how I would set up those proportions and solve. The assessment is going to be next class. Make sure to complete those practice problems and check your answers. Thank you.